Good afternoon, and welcome to our week one go-to training for mastery, personal development, and leadership. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. And I'm just going to ask you guys to mute yourself if you don't mind. Um, and then I'm going to open up for questions at the end of the session here. Um, and I will try not to go that long. But good afternoon. I am coming to you from Winter Park, Florida, and where we've got the sunshine is out, but there are quite a few clouds where I am, um, and I hope you guys are nice and warm if you're in a cold place, or nice and cool if you're in a hot place. So um, it's interesting how it depends on where you are, right? Um, but welcome to our live go-to training session for mastery, MDL 501, personal development and leadership. I am your host, your guide, your instructor, John Nash, and I want to welcome you here today. Thanks for taking your valuable time to join us. And I can tell already that by that decision, you are um, you have a desire to do well and to succeed in the course, which I love. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. So I'm going to uh, there we go. A brief introduction. I am in the entertainment business and music business um, department. I've been at Full Sail for over 7 years now, and I started out teaching macroeconomics, and I've taught statistics and whatever they need me to teach in business. But I've for quite a few years now, I've been teaching the course on business finance, principles of business finance. So I'm a finance guy, um, but I'm also a musician. So I try to present everything I do from the standpoint that I want to light up both sides of your brain. In other words, the logical side and also the emotional side. The left brain, sort of cerebral science, and also the right brain, creative, out of the box um, perspective and viewpoint, which might not be typical for the finance folks, but I am a former jazz musician. My story starts when I was 5 years old. My mom and dad were killed in a private plane crash, and my life was, and my two older sisters, our life was turned upside down. But thankfully, my dad's brother and his wife raised me, and both my dad and my father, I call him, um, were in the banking industry. So my dad was started out as a poor Georgia boy without shoes. I mean, that's how poor they were in rural Georgia, and he was a son of a Pentecostal holiness preacher, and by age 30, he was a multimillionaire, and he did that because he was able to focus in on his ability, his talent, and to also develop it. But his particular gift, and I think I have some of that, is the ability to recognize patterns. And so it's a transferable skill, as a matter of fact, and so it's something that I've used to actually go into the investment world. I went to a school up in upstate New York for that was really a feeder school for Wall Street. And so I was around a lot of quantitative folks, very brilliant, high IQ. Just I tried my best to keep up with all of them, but many of them went straight. Most of them actually went straight to Wall Street and jobs like Lehman Brothers or Goldman Sachs. And I stayed in Rochester and went a different route. Became an analyst on the investment research side for a $7 billion investment company. And then I went to work for the largest financial institution in the world, Citigroup, and I built an investment practice of clients from the ground up using traditional marketing methods, um, including cold calling people on the regular home telephone at night when the stock market was crashing, um, asking them for all their money. So I have a little bit of the Wolf of Wall Street type of background, but certainly not crazy, not as crazy like that. Um, in any case, I learned to play the piano by teaching myself. And that's just because I couldn't figure out how to play the piano like the way that everybody else does. I was put in piano lessons at age 5, and this old, strict German lady teacher, um, she figured out that I wasn't practicing, and um, she kicked me out of the lessons and said I was cheating because I was using my right, I was just playing by ear, and so I had to figure out a different strategy that worked for me. But I did eventually join the jazz ensemble and played. My first instrument was an original 1973 Rhodes piano, and I played all the way through middle school and high school, and then played in it's Tulane University Jazz Ensemble. I played in the Tulsa University Jazz Ensemble. I've done a few other entertainment things. I've been a broadcast cameraman for a live TV show, um, and but back to this course. And I told you I try to be short, and I probably wasn't that short with that. This is mastery, personal development, and leadership. I've spent my entire life in the shadow of masters. And I'm not just saying that because it's my family members. Everybody, it's like when you have kids, all the kids are always awesome, right? Everybody's kids are geniuses, which is not true statistically. But, my dad was a brilliant real estate investor. He would go in and buy up the raw land ahead of time because he could see the patterns and trends before anybody else. And then he would sell the intersections to the gas stations or the shopping malls, etc. And they say that at one time or another, he owned the intersections, every single intersection in South Tulsa, which was my hometown. But my grandfather on the other side was also a Pentecostal preacher, and he became he became a world famous televangelist, and he was the first preacher to use Hollywood film cameras and film his services and put them on television. There were only 3 networks, and so he became well known, and then he eventually met lots of Hollywood folks and started doing some primetime shows with the stars, and then he built his own university in Tulsa, where my son is actually attending right now. I just got back from Thanksgiving trip. I went to my hometown, brought my daughter, and my other son is in another college, and we all met up in Tulsa, and I got the chance to walk around and actually look at these buildings, which I've done many, many times. But my son wanted to, he had this desire to play a Steinway, and they had a Steinway in the university. And so I walked him into the security office and and found somebody. It just so happened to be somebody that I had met before years ago. And on this holiday weekend, everything was closed, but it just so happened that the music person was in their office in the building. And so we got to go right over and sit down and play a Steinway, which was just an awesome experience. But anyway, I'm not trying to brag about it. I'm just trying to say I grew up around what I would consider to be masters of their industry, and I've always felt like I don't measure up, and I have always felt a pressure that wasn't even, people weren't even intending to give it to me, but I took on, or I felt a pressure. You know, I've got to do something that's as big as this to be a good person or to be accepted. And so you can imagine I got into this to what the Robert Greene in the book calls the false path. And so I've been through the Wall Street world and tried to go after money, and money was probably more important than other things than it should have been. Money is important, but it's not a goal. And I finally have learned that over the years, that it's not the goal. It's only there to help you reach your goal. And so, can you guys still hear me? Everybody doing okay? Just text.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Here's a quote that I found that I think ties into what you're learning this week in Mastery. It says, be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire. I love that quote. Also, I found another one a student provided a couple months ago. Giving up on your goal because of one setback is like slashing your other 3 tires because you got a flat. So don't give up on your goal. So I'm your instructor this month, and I love this course because I get to see the light bulb come on for many students. My information is on the screen there. You can everybody can see that. I'm sharing the slides, but sometimes there's an issue with that. Yes, excellent. Thank you. I'm reading the chat as much as I can as well. So my contact information is on there. The best way to get a hold of me is to email me, and the next best way is to text me. And if you have something that you feel like is more urgent, then email me and text me. Does that mean I won't ever respond to a phone call? No, that doesn't mean that. But I'm saying to you, with my personality and with the other things that I do, this is probably the best way to reach me. I'm here to help you. You're gonna do fine this month if you basically, if you do the work, you're gonna be fine. I have not had any students that didn't try and or I'm sorry, I didn't have any students that tried and didn't do well. It doesn't happen. The students that don't do well, they don't do the work, or and to do the work, you have to put in the time. And as you are learning or have learned, if this is you're coming back to this to education, you have to. You can't start your assignments on Sunday night. It's just, especially when you have to create some things or write some things, you're gonna have to and you all are. I shouldn't be saying this to you all because you showed up today, but you've got to look ahead. You got to say, oh, this is what I got to do, and then how long is that probably going to take? And then, oh yeah, it's probably going to take double what I think it's going to take. And so then that amount of time, how can I schedule that so that I can actually achieve this goal, and do so with a little bit of margin of error at the very end. So let's talk about mastery. What is mastery? This is what mastery is to me. Mastery is the principle of leverage, the scientific principle of leverage. So this is actually a principle I teach in my finance course. And because I teach people to become financial Jedis. That's what I call it. It really is kind of like that. If you think about the Star Wars movies, and I'm talking about the ones that I grew up on, I've seen them all with my kids. But when I was a kid, the fourth one came out, as that was my first one, of course, and then the second one was it Empire Strikes Back, I think, and in that movie, Luke is trying to find the Master. He's trying to find the Jedi Master, right? Yoda, and he goes to this planet, and his ship crashes into the swamp, as I recall, and it goes underwater, right? So he's like stuck. It's like getting stuck in the mud in your Jeep or in your car. So he's on this planet, he's looking around, and he's trying to find the Master, right? And he finds this short little guy that doesn't look like anything, and like, who's this guy? Why does this guy think he's can talk to me? I'm so busy, I'm trying to find a Jedi, and he's interrupting me and wasting my time and all this, right? And then it turns out, oh my gosh, this guy is the Jedi. How did he find that out? Because he watched Yoda, little guy, use the Force to magnify his own force, and he lifted this spaceship right out of the swamp. And that's the scientific principle of leverage that so much of science is based on. For example, if you ride a bicycle, the bicycle is based on this leverage principle. What is leverage? It's a mechanical advantage, and you get an advantage by having a something small that's able to affect or turn or move something much, much bigger. So in the case of Star Wars, it was Yoda, who's a tiny guy, is moving this giant spaceship. How did he do that? He used the Force to do that, which magnified his own force. It's like in a bicycle, you pedal a little bitty circle, and that little circle controls the wheels, which are a much bigger circle. And it's when I teach finance, it's the same principle that is at work when you invest in a house, and you put down a small down payment, which is your force, but then you use borrowed money, which is other people's money, to magnify your own force. And then you're able to control a much bigger asset than you could control yourself if you had to pay cash. And because you can control a much bigger thing, why is that important? Because you can then get the gains from that much bigger thing. And when you compare the gains the benefits you get from that result, then when you compare that to what you started with, what you had to put in, the cost that you had to bear, or what you had to sacrifice, you sacrifice a small amount in order to get this huge benefit. And so that's how I see mastery. And I like to think of it as you plus knowledge equals expertise, and expertise plus practice or developing your gifts. That's where you see genius. So one more thing about leverage. When I was a kid, I was a skinny teenager. I was a geeky nerd. My friends were geeky nerds. We were computer nerds. We actually competed with each other to write programs for these personal computers that had no instructions. They were brand new. There's no programs. It was just like, okay, here's this machine. What do we do with it? So we had to teach ourselves, and by trial and error and looking at other people's ideas and adjusting them, adapting them, going further, we taught ourselves how to write some programs. But of course, there were other people like Steve Jobs that were Bill Gates that were older and they were at their exact right time at the right place to just the leverage like you would never believe, right? So when I was a skinny teenager, I didn't like the way I looked. And so I actually committed to going to the gym and exercising, doing some powerlifting, buying, studying, reading everything I could about what is this, how does this work. I got a trainer, and I went from 130 to maybe 195 within 6 months or so. And I did that without any anabolic steroids. And one of the things that I learned from that is something that I did not expect. And that is that stretching my muscles was the thing that allowed me to contract them farther than before. So then I learned that there's actually a principle called the principle of limitations. And the principle says that you can only contract a muscle to the extent that you can stretch it in the opposite direction. So believe it or not, the stretching that I always thought was just nothing, just something small, that was making it possible for me to use to have more force when I was lifting. Anyway, that's how I see this course. This is like this is when you're going to study your path throughout your program, and this is like stretching. You're stretching your mind, stretching your vision, and then after you take this course and go through the other ones, it's like you're going to be using your muscles, trying to build more muscle. But it really helps to understand what kind of big picture, what kind of path you're on, and really, am I doing, making sure am I doing the thing I should be doing? So anyway, if you haven't gotten into the material, you're gonna love it. The textbook is awesome. Here's some things about the course, and then I'll spend the next 10 minutes going over some course details, and then I'll open it up for questions. But certainly, if you have questions throughout the week, you can contact your instructor. And if you're in my section, you can contact me, certainly. But I know the other instructors are as equally as willing to help. And so let's talk about the course. Go-to training sessions is what we're doing right now. Check the dates and times. You can register for the sessions. I'm asking that you would go back, if you haven't already, and check that you've completed the activity. We have so many students in the course, in the sections and courses, that it helps if you can just always check that you've completed things. The purpose of the go-tos are to give you an overview of either the course, which is this week 1 is more about the course, but also the week's assignments / discussion, and then answer any questions you have. But I found that a majority of the questions are actually answered before we get to the Q&A. But it's if I've missed anything, please let me know. I'll ask you, or I'll answer any questions that you have. The book is, of course, Mastery by Robert Greene, and I don't have the ability to actually expedite anything or to help in this area, but FSO support is usually around. So if you email FSO support at fullsail.com, they will help you if you haven't gotten your book, and you get the book by getting a code. And I believe it's called the Vital Source Book Reader or Bookshelf. You have to have that installed, I think. In any case, you're going to need the book as fast as possible. So I would just ask, if you contact them and you don't get a response within a day or two, well, really a day, since this is so important, then just reach out and let me know what's going on. I'd love to be updated just so I can quickly see, oh yeah, this is going on, and I can keep that in mind. And if you ever need anything, an exception of any kind, then I'm much more likely to do that for you, to help, because I understand the situation you're going through. Okay, so we've got week. Let's see. Here we go. Late policy. Late policy is going to be pretty much the same for all the courses. Got to turn your assignments in on time. With the exception, if you contact me ahead of time and share that share with me that you have an issue, or share with your other instructor, hey, I'm going through this. I know this is due tomorrow, but this situation has come up. I don't know what to do. What should I do? If you do that ahead of time and you're proactive, you're going to be much more likely to get help with that, or possibly get an extension. But the policy is 1 day late equals 20 points off. 2 days late, 50 points. That's a lot of points. So you can see how important this is. This is helping you either the first time or the second time to really plan your weeks out, so you can understand what is expected, and then, do I have everything I need? And if I don't, or I'm having an issue, I want to communicate with my instructor so that they understand what's going on and are more likely to help me. Make sense? Okay, so the weekly themes are discover your calling, your life's task. That's kind of what we've been talking about today, about becoming a master. And then week 2 is about inspiration. What inspires you, motivates you. Week 3 is the mastery journey. So you're really going to start solidifying the steps that are in your course, and how you can get the most out of it. And finally, in week 4, professional development and leadership. We'll take all the things that you've learned about and the steps in your journey, and you're going to put them together in more of a cohesive type of vision. Assignments. You've got discussions. If you're online, this is discussion boards of 20%. You'll have your turning point video, 10%, and all this is available online. My point in talking about this is that you've got to decide how to manage your time, and you might not even have enough time to do everything. And so if you don't have time to do everything, or it's very, very scarce, then you have to prioritize. And how do you prioritize? Well, it helps to go and look and see what everything is worth. What's gonna count the most? This is the same thing you're gonna do in your career. There are things that there are times where you can't do everything, so you have to prioritize. So make sure you go back to the information so you can see what the consequences are, or what's going to happen if I do or don't do this or that, and then make your decision as to what's important. Grades. The grade scale is a little bit different than maybe some other schools, but A pluses, you got to get 95 to 100. An A is 90 to 94. A B plus is 85 to 89. B 80 to 84, etc. But here we go. Look at this. A C is 73 to 79. And a D, which is to say not so good, is 70 to 72. Below 70 is failing. And it says here, and you probably already know this, you're going to need a C to pass the course. If you don't get to that 73 mark, you're going to repeat the course. But like I said, if you do the work and if you're proactive, you do the best you can, you're going to do fine. So you don't need to worry about it. Just take a deep breath and try to keep up, try to stay on top of it. Your week 1 assignment, you're going to have a turning point video. The objective is to conduct a review of what you've learned. We want you to to review what you've learned, but also we want to get to know you too a little bit better. So you're going to share a personal turning point story utilizing the weekly reading in the textbook. So what you're going to end up with is a 3 to 5 minute recorded video presentation, and you've got to appear in the video. I want to see you in the video. 3 to 5 minutes. It's not that long. It's actually very difficult to be that much shorter than 3 minutes. It's actually more challenging to be simple, if that makes sense. To be simple, you have to actually digest all the things you want to say and narrow it down and edit it down so that you are very concise and it's easy to understand. If you ever done anything creative where you had to produce like a video or a story or something else or an article, then you know that process where you've got to anyway. So 3 to 5 minutes. I want to see you in the video. Once it's done, it's probably not a good idea to upload this on the FSO. Sometimes it takes like hours. So save yourself some time. Upload it to YouTube, or you can use Vimeo or another service as long as you can link to it easily. But upload it to YouTube. Set it to either unlisted or public. Please don't set it to private. Then post a link like a working link that I can click on, and there you go. That's it. Hopefully that'll be faster and more efficient than trying to upload it to the platform. So you're gonna have your turning point video, introduction, what you desire to become, and your personal journey to develop mastery in your field of interest. You're going to reflect upon at least one insight that you gained from each of the 5 of the strategies for finding your life's tasks. All right, so what I'm talking about is the 5 strategies are: number 1, return to your origins. Number 2, occupy the perfect niche. Number 3, avoid the false path. Number 4, let go of the path. And number 5, find your way back. So these are those are in the textbook. You're going to expand upon one of the 5 strategies and provide a turning point story from your own life that help you begin to identify your life's task. Describe your dream career path that you deeply desire and share 2 personal goals that you can achieve in the next 3 weeks. So I want you to think really short term on this. What are some goals? Share 2 goals that are personal that you can accomplish in the next 3 weeks that will jumpstart your mastery journey to that dream career. That's actually a really good component of the assignment, because it's right in the beginning of your journey, and that can really help to position you looking the right way, in the right direction to be able to spot the opportunities that will line up with your life's task. Okay, so then I've gone over the details. Discussion board. You're going to have a discussion this week, and of course, its initial post is due Wednesday before midnight, and then by Sunday you have a peer response. It's very straightforward, so I can tell very quickly if what level of engagement you have with the discussion during the week. So, and my major perspective is I want to see people engaged in the material. You can't do that if you have 2 sentences that say, yeah, that was great. I love what you did. Thanks. So make it personal. Get in, jump it, put yourself in the story, and try to stay engaged with the discussions, and you'll do well. First, in your post, you're going to introduce yourself. Where are you from? What degree program are you starting? Provide insights about yourself regarding your career focus and what you aspire to do. Then I want you to reflect upon what you found by completing the grit scale as well as the ambition scale. If you take those tests, you're going to discover some things, and I want you to reflect upon what you've discovered. Then determine your 3 strongest and weakest areas, and then for your strengths, then go even further by saying why why you have these strengths, and then also the same thing on the weakness side. Think about how you can develop those areas, or how can you improve upon those weaknesses. So it's good to take an assessment to see what is doing well and what is not doing so well. You don't want to spend all your time on just the things you're awesome at, and then ignore all these other things, some of which you're going to need in life. And you also don't want to just focus on what you don't know or what you have weaknesses in, and not develop the strengths that you know you already have, because you want to be great at what you do. Cite 3 concepts from the mastery reading that resonated with your results from the grit and ambition scale, and explain why you chose those concepts. So it's pretty basic. We've given you some hoops to jump through. Just make sure you do it on time. Reply post is also needs to be on time before Sunday at midnight. And you're going to basically choose somebody that hasn't been responded to if you can. Try to. And then respond to your classmate by sharing an example of how you related to your classmate's reflections. And you're supposed to provide at least one link to an article or a video or some resource that you feel can help or provide inspiration along their mastery journey. So look, find somebody else you can reply to, and then offer some sort of resource, tool, or link to something that actually might interest them or help them. That's what makes these discussions valuable, because you're not just saying how you think you feel about what they did. You're actually providing some value, and you're going to get that value back by providing it a little bit. Someone's going to give that value to you, which may help you become more aware of a blind spot that you have, or help develop your strengths, one or the other. Okay. All right. I want to open up for questions now. You can. I think you guys can unmute yourselves, because I didn't mute everybody at the same time. But are there any questions? If you have them, feel free to ask me anything. And if not, I'm gonna let you carry on and enjoy the rest of your day and week. And I know you've got work to do, and some of you have other jobs and other things, families, careers. So I totally understand. And I also understand from my teaching finance online as well, that I know the challenges that you guys go through with schedules and trying to get this done. It's not always like, it's not always the main thing that you're doing in the day. So I get it. Just try not to wait until the last minute, because you can ask me questions, but you're going to need some turnaround time for me to get back to you, because I'm very, very busy, and I try to get back to you as quickly as I can, but you want to leave some margin of error. So I will say that if I take, if you ask questions and I don't get back to you in time, if it's on my end and I took longer, then I'm going to give you that extra time back so that you can act upon the advice that I give you, if that makes sense. If you're asking for help or what to do, and then maybe a deadline passes, you know, and you didn't get an answer with enough time to finish it, don't stress out about it. Just make me aware of it. And, you know, when I get back to you, I will give you the extra time. I try to be as fair as I can. And I'm about the results, not about every single detail, which is not to say that you want to, you know, not be excellent. I want you to be excellent, but the emphasis is on, can you get this? What can you learn from this? I want you to learn. I want you to be interested in what you're learning. I want you to get into it. I want you to move forward. And I want this class to help you do that and not be any kind of a hindrance or just be there to offer you hoops to jump through. And what our feedback has been that the students really do get something valuable out of this. Any questions? Okay. Well, here we go. Who's talking?
This is Darren.
Hey, Darren. What's on your mind?
Well, I was thinking about the Turning Point video.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what we have to do for that is make sure we have a point of view of something that happened in our life, referring back to the mastery textbook.
Yes. Basically you want to introduce who you desire to become.
Okay.
And your personal journey to developing mastery in your field of interest. So it's about who you want to become, and then reflect upon at least one insight that you gained from the 5 strategies. Can I, if I click on that, let's see, I guess I have to move this over. Mastery. How do I get to the PDF? Oh, that's not it. Well, I can share my screen. All right, I'm sharing my screen. Can everybody see that? I'm not sure what it looks like, but
yeah.
Okay, so I would start with that. If you start there, chances are one of those is going to resonate with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I get back to the, there we go. You're going to reflect on at least one of those insights from each of the 5. Okay, so I apologize. You're actually you're gonna do one insight from each of those. So you really want to go through those very carefully, and once you go through them, make them personal. Think about your own life. What have you been through? Right. How does this line up, with the different seasons in your life? Sometimes you might have to think back to a previous season. You're going to expand upon one of the 5 strategies. So then once you do that, that's when you're going to zoom in and expand on one of them a little bit more. And you're going to expand on it by providing a personal story, something that you went through that helped you begin to identify what your life task is. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's great.
So start out with a big picture, go through all of them, and then we're going to zoom in after that on one of them. And then right after that, you're going to describe your dream career path that you deeply desire and share 2 personal goals that you can achieve in the next 3 weeks. So what we're trying to do is get you to, out of understanding all of it, finding one of them that's personal. Then we want you to turn that into an action step to a short-term goal. What can I do as a result of this that'll help me move forward towards my dream career? Make sense?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome. And if you have any other questions as you're going along, please let me know.
Will do.
Any other questions? Okay, you guys are awesome, and I want to thank you for taking your valuable time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Have an awesome week. Don't forget to get some rest and also do something fun. All right? Don't take yourself too seriously. Thanks again, and adios.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.